I'm going to show you guys how to create a simple logo here in Sketchup, and I'm just going to kind of talk over the video that I have in time-lapse here. So what I'm doing first is I laid down the JPEG logo. This one happens to be for Perma-Liner. Laid that down into the Sketchup file as a flat file on the x-axis. And then what I'm doing here is I'm using the pencil tool, and I am drawing in or tracing around the line of the first layer, which is going to be the arrows. So this is a mixture of using the pencil tool and using the curve tool just to kind of try to get the geometry correct. And it's a series of segments with the pencil tool going around and just kind of massaging the curve of the arrow, trying to get the exact or the close to exact geometry. With it being a JPEG and with it being kind of a lower resolution JPEG, it's hard to really exact pixel this design, but the end result comes out pretty good. So what I'm doing now is using the 3D text tool, and I'm just trying to find the font in here that matches the Perma-Liner Industries font. And another quick note with SketchUp is you can't skew or italicize or bolden fonts. You have to have the built-in font that you're trying to use, so that was a little challenging here. I had to create a font first. What I'm doing now is I'm extruding the lettering, and I'm resizing it and shaping it, and I'm pulling it up on the z-axis to give it the first layer of three-dimensional material. A lot of this work is going to be fine-tuning and massaging and moving stuff around, just trying to get a feel for what the logo should look like. Here we're extruding the arrows down on a negative z-axis to give it the final 3D look. And here I am color matching the logo I'm using the paint bucket tool and the eyedropper tool, and I'm going around and I'm actually colorizing all the different edges on the actual logo itself. Here we're using VRAY for SketchUp as the rendering engine. So basically creating my materials and my textures and my glossiness and adjusting the IOR, etc. And I'm doing some test renders to see how it's going to look before I set up my lights. I think VRAY is a really excellent tool to render if you're going to render on SketchUp, because it provides to me the most photorealistic look, and it's a very efficient rendering engine, and it uses the graphics card of your computer. So in this case I have a GTX 970 running 4 GB, so it seems to be pretty quick. You can use GPU acceleration. So here I'm just trying to get the rotation correct and kind of figuring out the scene that I want. These little cone-shaped things are lights. These are what actually direct light and intensity onto the logo. This is how I'm trying to basically get an idea of how I want to light this thing. You'll notice kind of the VRAY windows will come up and go away, and that's just me basically doing test renders to see how the light's going to hit that logo at the different angles. I'm adjusting the output of the red at that stage just to try to get a little bit brighter red when it renders out. Make sure you save your work often. I turned autosave off just to save memory. So if you're going to start doing this, make sure you save often, because you never know if you're going to run into a crash. These are a bunch of test renders so I can see how the metal sheen is going to look on the sides of the letters. And here we are in our final model for the final look of the logo. And I'm just doing a bunch of basic renders just to kind of see how the light's going to hit it, and then what I need to adjust. And half of this is doing the rendering in VRAY in SketchUp, but half of it's also post-production in Photoshop. You'll basically take your final render output and then put it in Photoshop and create your flares and adjust your vignetting, etc. And here you can see that that's pretty much the final look. A couple more adjustments to the brightness of the lights, and that gives us what we want. So at the end of the clip here, it'll actually show the final rendering, and this was a really quick rendering. You can take a lot more time to do a lot more detail, but this will give you an idea of how to create a model of your logo. It was rather sped up, but hopefully it helps some people out. So appreciate you guys watching. Thanks, and yeah, share it if you want to.